Upon starting Helldivers 2 and perhaps looking up some loadout builds, we come across a lot of videos that talk about ideal builds that would be best utilized when you are high enough level. However, a lot of players are starting now and want to spread some democracy and want to know as of right now what they should be using to best perform in Helldivers 2. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the optimal low level build for players that are still under level 10, as well as a couple of other players that may be higher levels but might be interested in this build and perhaps want to maybe change one thing or another. But either way, this build is really strong on its own. And to best showcase the build, the gameplay you are seeing in the background, I am playing with the build equipped completely solo on the hardest difficulty, the Helldiver difficulty, which is going to be several notches above the difficulty you're going to be playing at this level. But the intent is just to showcase how the build plays out. Today's build also kept solo play in mind, as my channel specializes in solo play. And with that said, we'll be building our character as versatile as we can, being able to handle swarms, armored units, even massive units such as the Biotitan. The gameplay in the background will be against the Terminid faction, but we will talk about all the different variants of this build that will also apply to the Automaton faction. It just so happens that the B-roll recorded was during a Terminid campaign. So if you're here just to look at the build and get out of here, then these are the items used in the B-roll as well as the stratagem. However, the build will vary from faction to faction and from grouped play to solo play. So if you want to learn how to best use this loadout and why we selected these choices, then let's go ahead and get down to the video. First up, for the primary weapon, we're going to be utilizing the Breaker Shotgun. The Breaker Shotgun, as of right now, is regarded as the best weapon in the entire game, and ever since I picked it up, I pretty much never took it off my hand. I tried out a couple of different weapons, but none of them come close to being as powerful as the Breaker Shotgun. But once you unlock this shotgun, you will pretty much be good to go. The Breaker Shotgun is found on the 4th page in the War Bond, and it'll take you about 7 to 8 levels to get there, as well as a couple dozen medals. Until you reach the shotgun, you're better off using the Liberator Assault Rifle, but as soon as you unlock the shotgun, make sure you do so and you will not regret it. The shotgun is capable of one-hitting all small bugs and bots, as well as being able to get rid of some mid-sized bugs and bots with only a couple of shots. It also has the highest effective DPS in the entire game, so you'll be dishing out the most damage by using the Breaker. I won't go into any more details about the shotgun, as I have an entire video dedicated for this weapon. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, then you can find that on my YouTube channel. Moving up to the secondary weapon, we've got the Redeemer pistol equipped. The second weapon is not often used in my experience, especially when playing in groups, as ammo tends to be less of a problem. But the Redeemer is going to be dishing out the most amount of damage when comparing with anything else at this level, so there's no reason not to opt in for it. You can take out a medium-sized unit or two with a few well-placed shots. The starting pistol may be a better choice if you're opting in for accuracy over DPS against the Automatons, as hitting headshots can be more important than dishing out a flurry of shots inaccurately against a decently armored bot. Moving over to the boosters, it's fairly simple. The Hell Pod Space Optimization for Terminid games, and the Vitality Enhancement for Automatons. Both of these can be found in the War Bond by the time you get to the Breaker Shotgun. The Hellpod Space Optimization is going to be ideal for the Terminid faction, as you can get back down into the fight carrying the most amount of supplies, which means you'll be having to resupply less. And since grenades are extremely important for getting rid of bug holes, especially when playing solo, you'll come to realize that grenade is worth gold to you and should be saved for clearing these out. The Vitality Enhancement, on the other hand, will help you resist injuries, which will be less impactful in the Terminid faction, as you shouldn't even be letting bugs reach you anyways. And if they have, then you're probably already screwed. Or you can use a stim to get back to full shape. However, when going up against the Automatons, they will be constantly hitting you with stray bullets and will cause you to get injured all the time. But the Vitality Enhancement is going to minimize all those injuries and save you lots of unnecessary stim uses. As for the body armor, I'll admit, for the B-roll gameplay you're seeing there in the background, I had been using the wrong armor. I used this armor right here, the CE74 Breaker armor, which I bought in the superstore just now, a few hours before I recorded this. And just after the recording, I realized that I didn't swap the armor back, and what I actually intended to be using was the Trench CE35 Trench Engineer, which is found on the 3rd page of the War Bond and has the exact same passive. With that aside, Armor here will vary depending whether you're playing solo, grouped, and what faction you're playing on. Only considering the armors in the war bond, if you're playing in grouped Terminid faction, I'd recommend the CE35 Trench Engineer because you won't be needing to be abusing movement as much when you have a group of allies with you. And the assisted recoil and extra grenades will go a long way to clearing out swarms and nests of bugs. If playing solo Terminid, I recommend the SC34 Infiltrator on page 1 as it's the best light armor that will allow you to do objectives without having to deal with every enemy in sight. If playing in a group in Automaton worlds, I'd recommend the page 2 heavy armor, which will reduce recoil as well and give you a whopping 50% resistance to explosive damage, which will happen all the time in Automaton worlds due to all of the different rocket units as well as accidental stratagem uses when you're playing in groups. Armor rating is currently glitched as of the time of this recording, but it is one of the developers' biggest priorities, so heavy armors should start being extremely relevant real soon. And lastly, for solo Automaton play, assuming armor rating is fixed, I'd recommend either the same heavy armor for extra protection or the page 4 medium armor for a bit extra movement, as well as a huge buff to the stims. As of the time of this recording, capes and helmets do not have any additional bonuses, so I can't recommend any. Some people claim that there are helmets that have hidden secret buffs to them, but there's no evidence of that as far as I know, so I'm not going to bring it up. Lastly, for the equipment side of things, I use the impact grenade, which is found on the page 5 of the war bond that can be achieved right before level 10. The impact grenade is just a carbon copy of the high explosive grenade, the only difference being there's no fuse and it blows up on impact, which in my opinion makes things a lot easier, so you don't need to be calculating fuse times trying to get those nades to land just right. You can just throw it at your enemy's face and it'll blow up on impact. Now as for the stratagems, we'll be starting off with the recoilless rifle, which for grouped play, it's one of the favorites for support weapons, as in grouped play these can be reloaded incredibly fast with the assistance of a teammate, and you can take down a Biotitan extremely quickly. It's also going to be a favorite for Automaton grouped play, but as for solo play, I'm using the recoilless rifle in the gameplay there, but I actually would recommend the expendable anti-tank. The reason being, it does a bit more damage and can take down a Biotitan with 2 nice well-placed shots to the face, whereas the recoilless rifle takes just a little bit more. But the difference isn't that big of a deal, and most people will prefer having the rifle as you can walk around and reload whenever you feel like it. The recoilless rifle can take out a charger's leg armor in just 1 shot, and you can finish it off by taking a few breaker shots to its leg, killing quickly any charger that's giving you any trouble. This will also apply for Automaton units. A well-placed recoilless rifle to a weak spot or a heat sink is oftentimes enough to get rid of a major unit. When soloing Biotitans with the recoilless rifle like you're seeing there in the background, it's quite a bit tougher, as the reload time can be a little bit of an issue, but I found it to just be long enough to reload while the Biotitan is throwing a tantrum. But either way, I had to finish them off with the pods pretty much every time. We're also going to be using the trusty orbital precision strike, which can one-hit a charger as well as one-hit a Biotitan if it lands just right. And we'll be mostly using the precision strike to get rid of these big guys in higher difficulties, but in lower difficulties, you can afford to use the strike just to get rid of a bunch of units. We're also going to be using the mortar sentry, which has an incredibly long range, and a well-placed sentry on its own can get rid of dozens of units from extremely far away, as well as you can also use it as something to distract your enemy towards it, enabling you to finish off objectives if playing solo. And lastly, my favorite stratagem of all time, the Eagle Airstrike. The Eagle Airstrike is simply amazing, and I still use it to this day all the time. The stratagem is a hybrid stratagem in the sense that it is absolutely fantastic at dealing with swarms, but it's also really good at dealing with very armored units such as chargers, tanks, and hulks. Not just that, but you've got multiple uses with a minimal cooldown, and even when the airstrike needs to fully retreat to rearm, the cooldown is still not that long, meaning you'll be using this stratagem a good 10 plus times in a full-length mission, making it extremely valuable and indispensable at this level. So I hope this video helps you Helldivers out there. Get out there and go spread some democracy, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.